Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sentinel Sports Extra, Cleveland Guardians weekly report. No analytics here. I'm founder and publisher of the Lake County Sentinel, Tim Shirer. And, here we are. We are not in a good place right now. Contention or hope for a playoff spot goes. But I will say this. I will say, being a fan and watching this team since 1975, when I was 7, I've seen much worse than this. They've lost 10 in a row and it sucks. But I've seen, them lose 10 in a row, then they win one, then they lose 7, 8 more in a row, then they win one, then they lose 7 more in a row. I mean, look, losing's never fun. But there's reasons we got here. And to me, though, that's worse. Those are the reasons. Those reasons are not acceptable. The reasons I think we got here are a terrible offseason by the front office. Absolutely terrible. A terrible offseason by the front office. Trading 3 key guys that mattered in the run to the ALCS last year. Josh Naylor, Andres Jimenez, and Tyler Freeman. Tyler Freeman's only hitting like 330 in Colorado, while Nolan Jones languishes around the 200 mark. He might be back below that again. But, these were moves. These moves were god-awful. Can we be honest? These moves were god-awful this offseason. Yeah, we got Slade Ciccone, and, we did get Louis Ortiz, too, but now he's probably going to get suspended for gambling. They don't put you on this restricted list for no reason. So he's probably gone. So who did they get for Andres Jimenez? Oh, they got nobody. So, and Slade Ciccone's been good. He has. You can't deny that. But was it worth giving up Josh Naylor? Because now the offense, the offense wasn't already great last year and hasn't been good for a while. You give up your one of your best power hitters, and now the offense is even worse. I've got a bunch of things. Let's go. Let's have something positive here. Jose Ramirez will be the starter for the American League All-Stars. It's his 7th All-Star appearance. He's one behind Bob Feller now to be the all-time leader in All-Star appearances for a Cleveland ball player. Stephen Kwan got named as a reserve. It's his 2nd All-Star game. We might as well get to this right away, too. I predict the record for the week at the end of every weekly. And I had been wrong like 5 weeks in a row, mostly because I was too positive. Well, last week at the end of the show, I predicted they would go 0-6 for the week. And what did they do? They went 0-6. So I got it right. That's one I wish I had gotten right. But, they're terrible right now. There's nothing else you can say except they are terrible right now. And it's not all on Stephen Vogt, even though a lot of it, I think he's to blame for some of it. The front office has. I honestly, I think he's a figurehead. I do. I think he's a figurehead. I think he's doing exactly what they want. Those post-game press conferences are really hard to watch with new excuses every night and some of the same old ones. We played a hell of a game today. He said yesterday. I believe it was we played a hell of a game. Yeah, you scored one run through 9 innings and then got one because of the extra runner in the 10th. You didn't play a hell of a game. Defensively, through pretty much 8 2/3 innings, played a hell of a game and pitched very well. Gavin Williams was great. But you didn't play a hell of a game. You played half of a hell of a game. You couldn't hit at all. Again. I predicted also, when I predicted the 0-6 week, I predicted they would score 15 runs. And I thought, wow, I'm being really shitty to them, saying they're only going to score 15 runs. They scored 9. They scored 9. They got shut out twice last week. So they 0-3 against the Tigers, 0-3 against the Cubs. They got outscored 11-6 by the Cubs and 10-3 by the Tigers. So I can't even, what can we say? They're horrible right now. I do want to say this. Yesterday really reminded me of 2012. It was August 4th when they had already lost 8 in a row. And then they lost to the Detroit Tigers when they blew the save. They blew it in the 10th inning. They scored 3 runs in the top of the 10th. They were in Detroit to take an 8-5 lead. And then Chris Perez blew the save, giving up 5 runs in the 10th inning. And they lost the game 10-8. And I remember this because that was the day of the Hall of Fame inductions, the NFL Hall of Fame inductions. And I watched that game earlier, and then we went down to the Hall of Fame inductions with our friend Brandon Ott and his dad. So while it was a terrible day to watch the Indians that day because they blew the save and extended their losing streak to 9, the Hall of Fame inductions that night were very, very good. Very inspirational speech by Curtis Martin that night. But that's what that reminded me of. Watching that yesterday. That was just disgusting. I see Brandon is tuning in today. You get shut out twice in a week. That's not horrible if, you score like 5-6 runs, maybe some of the other games. But when you get shut out twice in a week, and in the other 4 games, you only score 9 runs. It's terrible. It was horrible. It was horrible to watch. I felt bad for the pitchers. Gavin Williams pitched unbelievable yesterday. Logan Allen pitched great the other day. Tanner Bybee, who should never be called the ace, ever. He is not an ace. He is not the ace of this team. If we have an ace right now, if the Guardians have an ace right now, I think it's Gavin Williams. His last 11 starts, he's got a 2.83 ERA. He's cut the walks down. So I think if the ace of this staff right now, this day, is Gavin Williams. So can we just stop calling Tanner Bybee that? I'm sure if I listen to the game tonight, they'll listen or watch on TV. I'm sure they're going to refer to him as the team ace. He is not. And if he is, it's just by default. But he's not even the best pitcher on this staff right now. Gavin Williams is the best pitcher on this staff. Bybee's ERA is over 4. Williams is under 3.5. Come on. He's the ace of the staff. So it really doesn't get any easier the first 3 days of this week. And hey, look, the series coming up in Chicago, come on. The way the Guardians are playing, can they even beat the White Sox? I don't know. But, they go to Houston tonight. All 3 games are at 8:10. Tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Tonight, Tanner Bybee will be on the mound against Colton Gordon, who, by the way, I picked up in 3 fantasy leagues because, hey, why not? Why not? Why wouldn't you pick a pitcher up that is facing the Guardians? It's a smart move. But Tanner Bybee against Colton Gordon. Bybee is 4-9 with a 4.20 ERA. Gordon is 3-1 with a 4.37. So that means he will probably shut the Guardians out tonight. The Astros are 55-35, by the way. They're in first place in the AL West. They're plus 71 in run differential. They're 8-2 in their last 10, and they won 3 straight. This is not good. Okay. So Tuesday night, Joey Cantillo, who did not pitch bad last time, he's 1-0 with a 3.41. And he'll face Hunter Brown, who's 9-3 with a 1.82 ERA. And then the finale of the series on Wednesday will be Slade Ciccone. He's 3-4 with a 3.56. Okay, so he's been better than Tanner Bybee. And he'll face Brandon Walter, who is 1-1 with a 4.15. And then after that, they go to Chicago. Looks like Logan Allen will pitch on Thursday, and I don't know after that. But the White Sox, they're 30-60. They're 26.5 games behind the front-running Tigers, who are just running away with the division. And 18 games out of the wild card. The Guardians are 7 out of the wild card right now. And the White Sox are a minus 84 in run differential. They're 5-5 in their last 10, and they lost 1 game in a row. But we got, remember when the team was in Houston 2 years ago, right at the trade deadline, I was in the hospital at that point, and they made those trades that just didn't make sense when they were only they were, I think, were they a game out of first place? I think they were a game out. And they sold, and it made no sense. And I think that's the reason Francona quit. I really do. He could use the health issues and everything, but I think that's the reason he quit. I think he lost faith in the front office. But they, after they made those trades, they had to go down to Houston, Mike Chernoff and Chris Antonetti, to talk to the team and explain the deadline trades, what they did. Why did they raise the white flag? And I was in the hospital at that point. I was having some cardiac issues, and I remember the nurse coming in, and he played baseball for Perry High School. Really nice person, great nurse. All the nurses were great at Tri-Point Hospital in Concord when I was in there. But he came in and he said to me, "How's it going?" And I said, "Well, the Guardians are trying to kill me." And he laughed. And we talked for a minute about the trades they made. The Aaron Savali trade really bothered me. And the thing is, Kyle Manzardo's not been bad, but how about playing the guy every day? How about not platooning him either? It's ridiculous. The platoon stuff is driving me absolutely insane. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay? It doesn't work. So, but here's some interesting statistics we have. The Guardians are 16 games worse than last year. They were 56-32 at this time last year. So they were right about where the Tigers are right now. Actually, maybe a couple games better. So they're 16 games worse than that. People are thinking about the 10-game losing streak, and they're thinking about when Manny Acta was the manager in 2012, and they lost 12 straight. Or they lost 10 straight, I think. But that year, they were better than this year. And Manny Acta got fired. At this point that year, they were 45-43. But after that point, they really went in the toilet. When Manny Acta was fired, from that point on, they went from the 88th game on to when Manny Acta got fired. They were 45-43. When he got fired, those next however many games that was, they went 20 and 48. Yeah. So their collapse was they had already lost 9 in a row, and it was going to get worse. So, and then Manny Acta got fired. I don't think Stephen Vogt gets fired because I think that the front office loves his platooning and his use of analytics because they're just as bought in as he is. So they're not going to fire him. Plus, they also know they created this mess. But also, watching this last week reminded me a lot of 1991. I know a lot of the millennials, people 40 and under, were not alive, or they were alive, but they don't remember it because they were infants or young. 1991, through 88 games, they were 11 games worse than this. They were 29-59 at this point. And at the All-Star break, John McNamara was fired, and he never managed again. And they ended up winning 57 games that year. So after he was fired, with Mike Hargrove, they went 28-46. But that was the beginning of a rebuild. I saw somebody the other day, a former producer at Channel 3. I'm not going to mention his name. But he said, it's time for a rebuild. There's nothing to be optimistic about. Let's prepare for a rebuild. No, this isn't the Cleveland Browns where they blow it up. Okay? This is the Cleveland Guardians, an organization that contends more years than they don't. All right? Oh, they haven't won a World Series. Well, there's a lot of teams in Major League Baseball that haven't won a World Series the last 20 years or last 24 years since the Dolans bought the Guardians. All right? There's a lot of teams that haven't won the World Series. So I guess their owners are cheap also. And making it like it's the approach of get in the playoffs and see what happens is a terrible approach. No, it's not. It's not. Teams who are wild cards have won the World Series. So get in, get in. That's what it is. Get in. The Dolan's approach has been fine. Do I wish they would spend a little more? Yeah, but I understand revenue. I don't need some idiot on Twitter because he's got 3.5K followers to tell me he's smarter. What I've learned is the people who have the most followers on Twitter are usually the dumbest people. And the people that follow them aren't very smart either, or they just follow them to see what stupid things these people say. Because some of these people, some of these 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds who think they know everything, but haven't lived through any miserable baseball, they amaze me. They amaze me. I wish when I was that age that I grew up with a run of good baseball like they've had. First sign of trouble and they whine like little babies. I'm sorry, I just got an alert from my son. We're on baby watch. His fiance is having their second baby today. Doesn't look like I'm going to have to end the show early. The baby is not coming as quickly as it was as their first daughter did. Their first daughter, she was in labor 10 minutes. Yeah, so there's that. So that makes things better, you know. That's a great thing, you know, makes me, you know, be miserable about the Guardians because I'm going to be honest with you. I try to be honest about them. I think sometimes I'm too optimistic about them, but right now this is a really bad situation. And I'm worried that they're going to stick with this analytics and just destroy everything they built. Because this front office has built a good team. And now all analytics is killing them. You know, it's just killing them. The platoon is just horrible. That's the whole problem with this whole thing. I'm telling you, it is. If this platooning stopped tonight, and they just started playing guys regularly every day, they would hit. They would score runs. They would start winning. And they could still make the playoffs. They're only 7 games out right now. 7 games out of a wild card. With a lot of games left. There's a lot of games left. There's 74 games left. You could make up 7 games. You make up a game every 10 days. And you're in. But this platooning crap is not going to work. As I said before, it didn't work when Craig Albernays was the third base coach for the Giants. It was a disaster there when he was the third base coach for Gabe Kapler, you know. And what happened there? They got fired. Because the front office and the owner realized, no, this is not working. It's not going to work. Bullshit. No all analytics only team has ever won a World Series. And don't tell me the Astros, no. They drafted great. They didn't bring guys up and play them every other day. They brought them up and they played them every day. The Dodgers, a lot of analytics, but they signed really good players and they developed really good players. So don't tell me. And they play their players every day too. They don't bring a guy up and have him sit for 6 days and expect him to pinch hit and hit a home run. No analytics-only organization has ever won a World Series, ever. No matter what any millennial tries to tell you. Analytics only does not work. I am all for looking at statistical data, but you also have to manage with your brain and not only the book. That's the problem right now with this Cleveland Guardians team. They've lost all faith in the manager, Stephen Vogt. They know he's not running the show. They know it. They know it. But he's not going to get fired, so people ought to stop that talk. And I'm going to put this one out there too. I've heard two things. I've heard people say, trade Jose. You idiots. He has a no-trade clause. He loves Cleveland. He's not leaving. He's not abandoning ship like you cowards. He's staying here. He wants to stay here. He's not going anywhere. Also, for you idiots who say, sign Stephen Kwan, give him anything he wants. From all reports, Stephen Kwan doesn't want to stay. Not because he doesn't like you or me or the fans or anyone like that. Stephen Kwan wants to play closer to home. And that's it. So as much as I would hate to see him leave already, if they traded him and got a good package back, not guys who are in low A or high A. I want guys who are ready next year and maybe a guy who's ready this year. Trade him. Get a lot for him. Also, another one I hate to see get traded, but you could get a bundle right now. You could get a bundle right now for Emmanuel Clase. You could probably get one or two major league guys and a couple prospects for him. Pretty good prospects that are close. Cade Smith is ready to be a closer. I love Emmanuel Clase. I love the year he had last year and everything he's given this team since he came here. But sometimes you got to move on. And that's not a total rebuild. You got pieces that can replace those guys. You trade Stephen Kwan, you bring up Chase DeLauder. You know? I just can't understand yesterday when they brought up Will Wilson. Well, I can understand. I think yesterday bringing up Will Wilson and instead of Chase DeLauder, it was Chris. And this is what gets you in trouble as a GM when you start doing this kind of thing. I feel like the Will Wilson instead of Chase DeLauder yesterday was saying to the fans and the media, I'm the GM and you're not. We're bringing up Will Wilson. We're not bringing up Chase DeLauder yet. So I think that's why that transpired yesterday too. And then they played him too. It wasn't bad enough they brought him up, but they played him. They started him. And he was terrible. He was over 3 and he struck out twice. My God, that guy has no place on a major league roster. And I'm not going to rip on Bo Naylor today. You could tell he felt bad yesterday. I'm beginning to think he's not the long-term answer at catcher, even though I really like him. But I'm not going to rip on him. But, well, we're getting to that point of the show. I need to give my prediction for the upcoming week. My prediction is they have 7 games this week. My prediction is 2-2 or 2-2, 2-5. They could get swept in Houston and then split with the White Sox. Trust me, folks, they're not going to do no better than 2-2 against the White Sox. So maybe they'll go 1-3 against the White Sox and maybe somehow, some way, by some miracle, they'll win one in Houston. But I'm going with 2-5 this week. And I'm not going to predict the runs this week. But hopefully it'll be more than 9. But, you know, until next week, when maybe we can talk about a win. I'm Tim Shirer. Take care and go Guardians.